we're coming together based on shared needs, interests, and they're universal, but they're very intimate and personal.
Was there a moment when you were like, oh, this is either getting bigger than I thought, or it's evolved into something that is bigger?
I just have never been one for, the picture perfect looking side of things.
You do it enough and you're just reveling in just being in the moment of however it comes out and however it lands.
And again, no experience, no money. It's been a theme of mine.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Oh,
I
yes.
asked my daughter to take a couple little snaps videos. So when we share and,
Amazing.
Thumbs
Wait, I'm trying to peek around the corner. Wait. Hi, nice to meet you.
I was telling Robin about your precious little doggie and the
Oh, yes.
I'm like, where is she? I need to see her.
Millie is, yes.
I go, but I don't think it's Miriam. Is that
Millie, yeah. Her original name when we adopted her was Daisy May. So
Oh my gosh, it's so cute. But I was trying to explain. I said Kyle had the cutest face. We're love doggies, and I said you said a baby's breath. I'm like, you mean a spray of baby's breath? That's the only
literally baby's breath behind her ear. So yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted from the very beginning. So this way we'll have a little,
Totally. That sounds good.
Thanks.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Great to meet you.
By the way,
to listen and watch.
Robin will be great. She's like she lives in Manhattan and in the Hamptons restaurant. She's been in the service.
Amazing.
When I know people are going to anywhere like in, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Brooklyn,
Yep.
can't even think Flatiron. I that's like, and I go to that one long list and I pull up some things I can't find it. So yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
All like that.
When we took the boys to Manhattan not too long ago, and we stayed at the Four Seasons on in Midtown, and this really nice like club level. And the manager of the club level just took a shine to the boys and was like always like they would be like making them. My son has sort of like tummy issues, so he's like, I made you something special. They're bringing it up from the basement, and then he would put them up on this little thing, and you would overlook, like you could see all of Manhattan. Anyways, we talked about it. I told him about Stackless. I'm like, now imagine basically when you're up here talking to people, and they go, "Where should I go to dinner?" And you're like, "Let me just text you a link. Let me just text you this one little thing, and then you've got everything." So yeah.
By the way, are we recording for the podcast? Okay, great.
We're in it. We're in it. I love the authenticity of like, I've always felt it weird to sort of, and everyone has their different ways, but to be like, okay, are you ready? I'm ready. Here we go. And then, hi, like to sort of like start it. And I don't know. Maybe it's just my personality too. I like the conversation and
I'm
the like.
100% the same way. And it's funny because when I'd have guests on, sometimes their agents want me to meet. I said, let's meet when our moms meet. Same thing. And one time I did a Warner Brothers thing, and this was, I forgot, White House. I forgot the name. It was a German Shepherd who was a hero. It was a big movie, and I had two of the child actors, and one wasn't old enough and allowed to use Facebook. So we were FaceTiming with me turning it around, and the person from the production thing at Warner Brothers was like, "Oh my God, this is the best!" Like she goes, "Nobody shows that side." I'm like, "That's the only side I could show." It was
I
like
love that.
beautiful hot mess that was just. You were like, it was great. There was no hot mess. It was just reality. So
I think that, it's so interesting that I think about that in what we're trying to build with Stackless and the authenticity. I think we've been through reality TV show, which we now know is not reality. Maybe the first one was like, but now it's got this formula and they know exactly how to do it to sort of get eyeballs. And then the same with like content creators, right? Is the difference between sort of having it all. I mean, we even joked there was that period where you sort of joked, everything looks perfect and social and whatever it is. But I think really we're getting into that, like, we sort of got bellyache from all that stuff. And now it's literally just like authenticity of seeing how people are, bumps and unpolished and just authentic and and I love that. I love that kind of content.
Same here. Only way I could be. I was sharing a story with one of my colleagues today, and it was something I didn't bring up, those nightmares that you don't want to remember. But I was like, oh man, don't go there to me. And I'm like, I have to go there. And I just said, I was supposed to read a script, and I don't read scripts. Like, could we swear on this podcast?
Totally.
No.
Let fly.
But I mean, like, it just, you don't want, I mean, I'm not a script person. If it's not, you know, just completely authentic, Anyway, it was just a hot mess, and the whole thing got so fucked up from every which way, and it was like a perfect storm, and I had to just ad lib, and I was like, it was just like the universe was supporting it. And it's just one of those things, and they're like, it ended up being great, but it was a beautiful mess. And that's reality. I just have never been one for, you know, the the picture perfect looking side of things. What you
I loved improv. I did improv for a number of years, and I love improv because I love that idea of even when you start improv, though, you'll go around the room and they want everyone to go around the room in order. And when you're about 4 or 5 people away from it being your turn, in your mind, you're like, maybe I could be a barber. Maybe I'm at a pool. Maybe like you're trying to come up with stuff that's gonna be good versus like once you do it enough and you're just reveling in just being in the moment of however it comes out and however it lands is the sort of beauty when you can get to that place. So I feel like that's the same with life.
I agree. Thanks, and thank you, by the way, for having me on. And
Totally.
it's a pleasure. Our meeting, Corey's a magical person to know to connect people, and I just couldn't love what you're doing more, and honored and happy to be part of it, and excited because I kind of remembered what this was about. I know it was like early business stuff, and I thought, let me go in blind. I don't remember if it's the biggest sales or the biggest stay the fuck away from or whatever these things are. I'm sure I have a long well,
All the things. Well, I think so 0 to, it was interesting when I started when I've started my own kind of web design development agencies and things like that before, but it's very different starting sort of something that is, or would take large sums of investment, I think, and 0 to 1, the idea of sort of moving from nothing into something to me is always a little bit nebulous. Is it the first time you get money? Is it the first time that you feel like you can cover checks for a couple of months? Is it the first time you get X number of customers or X number of record and what one is? And so the idea of 0 to is sort of that place that I'm at where it's like, I know I'm past 0, but um the benchmarks are fuzzy. It's fun. But what I love to hear is, a little bit about your background, and then prior to Joy of Mom, maybe like, Joy of Mom minus 1 week. What was that sort of period where you
right.
had that inkling and sort of like started pushing into something? So I'd love to start in that area.
That's very interesting. Okay. And I have an unusual, very unusual, which is the anniversary of it now. So, and where is this being broadcast? Wherever,
Yeah, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all the things.
all the things. That's so nice. Okay. So, should I start with just a quick background?
Yeah, I think prior to Joy of Mom, like where, upbringing, background, or any relationship and family or personally sort of around entrepreneurial or sort of where you came from.
Okay. Great. Oh, I love this, Kyle. Great questions. Um, all right. I'm from Chicago and Evanston, which is people know just because the university there. And a minute out of college, I worked at my first job as like a sales assistant at Blair Television. And I was in the TV and then radio and then account executive. And it's interesting. I don't even know why I'm even mentioning it. But when I knew that I needed to do more, I have a theme of needing to do more. I remember I wouldn't leave my job. Excuse me. I wouldn't interview on lunch hour. You know what I mean? And I remember
Right.
one of my bosses, and I was a sales assistant, said, "Vicki, nobody quits. It's called you have 2 weeks paid vacation," which I never took, "and you have lunch hours." And I'm like, "No, I give 1,000%, so I quit." And like, to go find another job. And he sees me in a steakhouse serving, and I don't really drink. I don't know wines. I don't know alcohol. I don't even think I was talented enough to carry the steak knives. I could serve all day long. I did that when I was younger. But he's like, "Oh, I see you're doing well." It was like one of those things. And, but I just whatever I'm in, I'm fully in, and, whatever I'm doing and representing and behind, I was just wired that way my whole life. So, somehow I got another sales assistant job, which was not a good situation because, this was a long time ago. So, when I was an assistant back in the day, a lot of people were, like, partying with the reps at agencies. So,
Mhm.
although as assistant, I kinda handled everything at the desk. The sales, the this, the other, and I was thrilled to do it, like, nameless, no credit, I didn't care. I was like, "Oh," and at lunchtime, everybody be watching soap operas, and I'm like, "I'll help at your desk. I'll do this. I'll do" Anyway, I just learned a lot because I had a big thirst for it. So after I had my other foray and with a woman who didn't want me to do anything but answer the phones, and I recently ran into her at a coffee shop, a million
Oh,
years
that's
later.
funny.
I didn't say anything, but I recognized her as like, I'm not even, you know what I mean?
Right.
Was people don't treat the way sometimes you got treated a long time ago. But anywho, then just to wrap through this quicker, I used to work WGN radio. So I was writing copy, account executive for the Cubs, the Bears, basketball,
Oh,
all
nice.
that jazz, all that stuff. Loved it. Loved it, loved it. And then I left because I wanted to write children's books on validating feelings. And one of my clients was the owners of Fannie Mae Candies. East Coast, it's Fannie Farmer. Midwest, it's Fannie Mae. And they asked me to handle their advertising. So I put my little writing books on hold, started a small boutique agency, which I had for like 9 years, did Fannie Mae. Then I inherited Fannie Farmer and Nevada Bob's Golf and projects for Sunbeam, Ameritech Craft. I'm missing something, pro bono work for children and adults. Then, got married for the second time. First time was a hot minute, although dated a long time, but hot minute-ish of being married. And I had miscarriages, 2 miscarriages, and I couldn't get pregnant. And then I was very blessed. I was pregnant with my first of my 3 children, and this was at the height of negative messages bombarding kids
Mm.
and teasing and bullying, and it's in my DNA. I just always stood up for people who were being teased. I walked people home from school. And so I had no tools, resources, etcetera. But after my first child and I saw this, I had to do something. And read some horrible articles that now you read about every day. Back then you didn't read about it that much, about kids being so bullied that they committed suicide. And so 10, 11 at night till 2, 3 in the morning for 2 years, I ended up learning how, not a coder, but I made my first piece of software. I hired
Oh, wow.
artists, wrote the music, co-wrote the music. And again, no experience, no money. It's been a theme of mine.
I love that.
N No resources, but that gumption and that
Yeah.
doing this, I couldn't try to do it. So I ended up making my first product, got it in. I wanted to go mass merchant, specialty retailer, direct response catalog. I'm missing something, um, computer software package, and ended up doing that by just frankly sheer will, the power, kind of don't underestimate the power of blind faith and frankly naivete. And I'd not one dime to put into marketing money or anything. And it really struck a chord with moms. It was a software game back in the day called Jack's House, Jack's Attic. I did music, I did an exercise video. Because at the time, there was only Barbie and Chicken Fat Charlie.
Right.
Like, I mean, it was a different world back then. So
Yeah.
anyway, a lot of moms told their friends, and there was a lot of sales on it, 100% just organically and directly. And moms wanted to join my club, which I didn't have. They wanted to know if I could recommend things. It was all leading up to what I'm doing now. They wanted if I could distribute because I ended up distributing my own stuff besides 3 kids on my hip, my husband quitting his career so I could do this. And so after years of doing that, I was not that early in social, and this is leading up to Joy of Mom, but I just felt that I didn't want moms to all of a sudden blink from busy babies in baby world to all of a sudden their kids are 16 and they're like, "Oh my god, wish I shoulda, woulda, coulda."
Right.
And I think a lot of us come from doing things that we either needed, learned, missed, saw holes in, and it wasn't really business opportunity. It was more that I just didn't want moms to feel alone. And I just felt there was something about let's galvanize, let's mobilize, let's create something for good. My problem was now jumping ahead, I wasn't interested in being an influencer. That never dawned on me. I am the before the Christmas card picture or after. I'm like, you know what I mean? It's not when I do things, I do it from my phone. You know what I mean? I don't use filters, I don't use tools, I don't even know how to, I don't care to. It was just really being completely just real authentic in the moment. It was kind of like my journal and diary. So I ended up, I talked to some people who I knew and they're like, you need to get an agency, you need to do this, you need to spend money, you need to, and I was like, I don't have it. And I just felt money didn't buy friends. I flipped over a laundry basket in my room one night and all these messages started pouring through me. I'm not a poet, I'm not a writer, but something higher was going on. I'm not an artist. I made over 10,000 pieces of content using pages. I
Oh my gosh.
yeah. I mean, it was like crazy. People were like, they thought I had it. Everybody was like, but when things got going, everybody's like, you have a team of 20, right? I'm like, a one. Like, they wanted
Or
done.
I'm just tapped into the source. Like,
My kids helped, which was great. They were, younger but it's like if I did something and we had a lot of people come and the site went down, one of my sons would like figure out how to fix it, you know what I mean, and get it back up. But it was just something I feel like just because it was real and sincere and authentic. And I felt like if I could reach one mom and that mom, just getting through things. There was a period, Kyle, I would be in business meetings and I'd pull out my computer and I'd say, I don't mean to be rude. Somebody needs to hear this now. And it was like a force was running through me and I'd write
nice.
something and it'd be like, oh my God, Vicki, I needed to hear this right now. And the type of content I shouldn't have even had any growth or had any engagement or comments because it was nothing dramatic or exaggerated or divisive. It was really just more about hope and inspiration and being real in the moment. And moms would be writing, paragraphs about how their experience, which would we've never had a community manager. You're looking at her. I don't even know how to use the tools out there anymore, like on Facebook. It's just kind of completely, you know, um, raw and, but it just, we grew. I remember one night going from like hitting 52 friends and I was like, doing the happy dance was like 2 in the morning. I thought I definitely need a life here. I would take
Right.
baths sometimes late at night. I'd have my computer like on the ledge of it because if somebody that was back in the day when comments on Facebook would be on the page.
Right.
Somebody commented, I responded. And I remember some guy, mostly moms, enjoyed mom but was like, "I can't believe you're responding back to me and you've 19,000 people." And I was like, "Why wouldn't I respond back to
Yeah.
you?" It just kind of, mom shared with their friends. We never, 100% organic. And, we've had weeks because I have to pull some stuff together. And I was kind of going through memory lane because I so often, I'm sure many of us do screen capture things that just move you so much. And I've so many folders about beautiful, just really heartwarming comments about people feeling like they're part of a family again. But I started pulling up some old numbers and I was like, wait a minute. It was like 57 million reached in 7 days. Which I'm not doing now because I'm kind of on stealth mode now. I just do my
Right.
my coffee chats because we're everything. I just need to do more than inspiring. We need to we tested out a platform and our moms loved it, but it wasn't that stable. And I just compromise anything with the experience of comments disappearing or likes disappearing. And I'm like, we need to get this right. We need to have the right team. And I just want to be able to do all those things to empower and serve and connect with what matters most and how it matters most in a safe and secure place.
Yeah.
So it's been a journey. So, but I didn't answer you what happened a week before Joy Mom. Did you literally mean that or figuratively?
No, I think interesting. I'd love to go back to one of the pieces that you said, which I feel like is around that area when post creating the game, and then you started to have moms that were sharing it and passing it on, but then they were coming to you for recommendations. Was that the period when it started to sort of shift to we should we should gather somewhere or talk somewhere? Like what was that nugget where it began, well, let's start a Facebook group, or let's start something where we start to come together? What was that first little inkling?
It was when moms kept saying, we need more." I just, from the again, I didn't have a club. I was aware of my bandwidth, although, you know, I mean, there was more weeks than not over the past forever years that I was tapped in, tuned in, checking like 20 hours a day, which is not healthy, 7 days a week. Do you know what I mean? I was like, so I didn't use schedulers. I mean, I was just doing it manually. So if it was 2 in the morning or 6 in the morning, it was me and me commenting
Right.
that time when about from distributing products, which, or wanting recommendations, a big thing, recommendations, and also being called to do a lot of things on the news when really sad, tragic things happen. Like, how is this stuff happening? Um, and that's when I felt we could do a lot of good by having this. Back then, I just couldn't find something that seemed genuine and truly about moms first. I wasn't looking to sell what I was drinking or my shampoo and really, that's the way you make money when you're an influencer. But I was looking to bring together to have a platform for good. So I my vision, was ahead of its time, if you will, but I have to stay true to who I am, and there were a lot of times, especially when there were investors and different things who really wanted me to do that, and I just felt it wouldn't work, it didn't feel authentic. There were times whatever I was wearing, I found out was sold out at Target, my pajamas, this and that, but I wasn't doing any affiliate fee.
Right.
I was just saying when they were like, "Where'd you get those cute pancake pajamas?" or whatever, when we would do live streams, play, do like a really fun thing every month for, like an hour and a half once a week, and where we'd all come in our jammies, things like that. So, but that was really the turning point when I just felt again, knew this struck a nerve and a chord and wanted to, we probably got into unformed microgroups before it was
Mhm.
happening
And
because
this wasn't on, like, a platform or anything, this was just sort
I
of, like,
started
direct or
yeah, I started on Facebook. I was
Okay.
yeah, on Facebook, and then it's interesting because years later, I was growing like this on Instagram, and somebody had taken, like, I Know I Need a Life. It was like, last I counted, it was like 297 pieces of our content, and I made it. I had artists that I was working with, and I tagged everybody, and some of them got contracts from American Greetings and Papyrus, if I'm saying it right. And I didn't even know, but people started saying, Vicki, it was like my quotes and the fonts I picked, and they put their logo on it. And it's not that I didn't care because you shouldn't do that, but they weren't tagging the artists.
Right.
So somebody who was like helping me at the time, a consultant from a big company, it was just one of those, reported it, and he must reported it backward. So Instagram thought I was infringing versus
Oh.
on. And so I didn't grow for 3 years.
Oh my
But
gosh.
no one to talk to, nothing. I was just like, "Oh, man." You know what I mean? Shit happens. It was like, and trust me, I did. I wrote emails. I just thought, I just got
Oh, it's
one for the
it's hard. Yeah, Facebook and Instagram both are just such can be such faceless companies where it just doesn't, the only way they manage that volume and that number of people is just by general algorithms. But I've had friends too who lose, a very important account or something like that, and it's just kind of like, well, I don't know, unless you know somebody like at the headquarters, which is, oh my gosh, I can't believe that was 3 years that they blocked your account.
Yeah, and because I remember being randomly in North Carolina, meeting with somebody and staying at her house. It was, um through, I think it was Jack Canfield, not him, but it was, like, connected with him, somebody he connected us who did Chicken Soup for the Soul, and we had lunch with a friend of hers who, I don't remember, his account was really big, and he goes, "You're red flagged," or whatever he was, he knew, and I was like, and I was, and you're also doing something that's, you don't have any access to reaching people, and you're part of people's lives, and they're part of your lives, and, and, you know, I've been doing live streams now, it's probably like 7 years, but you become connected and your tribe and your extended family. And it's just, it's not a good feeling that if something happens that you can't all be there for each other. So, but what's interesting, I'll just share this, and it's crazy, and it's what's today, the 17th? Yeah. I think it was actually on the 19th, but the week before, I incorporated Joy of Mom. Um, my oldest sister passed away, and she had lymphatic lymphoma leukemia for years. And it was just the anniversary, and I was just pulling into, the cemetery, and I get a thing from my bank that my first investor had come in. As I'm pulling through the gates, it was just like, you know, it's been like just quite the journey of I'm gonna cry, I get emotional, doing the right thing. And there's great people out there, and there's also a lot of not great people, meaning business-wise, to be taken advantage of, to be, So, whether it's this podcast or we chat again, there's really valuable lessons for people to know going into it, and they're usually not the one you find in all the speaker things. I've done a lot of speaking, and I just tell it like it is, and I end up having most of the questions asked at me because I look like I weathered those storms. But, you just gotta keep on plugging and keep on doing and be able to look yourself in the mirror every morning, and, it's kinda like sometimes you're looked at as crazy until, "Oh my god, this is genius." But
I've met so many people even recently who have that same experience of starting something and people saying this is a horrible idea and this is never going to work and et cetera. And I think it's those people who push through that, the life pieces and the sort of synchronicity of how things come together and how they work and timing and the yin and yang of life is such a mystery. I feel like your authenticity though, and your commitment to just being yourself and putting that out there. I love that in the sense in a world where we have SEO hacked, hashtag hacked, right? You can just get an agency to get you to the top of the list and to get eyeballs and you know, um uh, that there's so many people trying to play that game when the game, that you weren't playing, that you were just being authentic and being yourself and bringing people together for those moments has brought together almost 3 million people, which is amazing. And I think a testament to your approach and your principles of how you approach life. And I love the authenticity also that you're not using a bunch of software and trying to that you're literally just, shooting and capturing moments of your life, and then sharing that with other people. I think that's what we miss also a lot of times, especially in this society. It's so different than others where we're all a little insulated in our own little kind of bubbles of self. And what you've created is an amazing network of people who can connect and around those sort of moments of life.
thank you. It's very sweet, beautifully said, and very appreciated. And I feel, Kyle, that's what you're doing with all that you shared with me. I mean, it's how can we make our lives less noisy and more meaningful and sharing things that we love with those that we love. And I feel also, and I know you and I've talked about this, I feel like mm, we all come together. It's like our souls are like, there you are, there you are.
Yep.
And it just feels like this, like new old friends, what I mean, when you're on shared journeys and wanting to really genuinely help and empower each other. And it's like there's just different seasons of life. And
Yep.
it's such a gift and a blessing, and witnessing like that feeling of the universe is really conspiring for our greatest good. But when you're on that journey and you're climbing that mountain, you just gotta be tough and strong. And I don't know, how it is with you with, because we're both in, with the phases that we're in when everything's like this taking off, and also knowing you need the team, you need the technology, you need the right stuff to support it, and there's so many threads we could run down here. But I know there'll be plenty of time to do it because
Yeah.
by sharing the things that we've not just survived, but thrived through a lot of life lessons, just can help people in so many immeasurable ways. And, sometimes I'll meet people, especially they're a little older, or younger. And, you just want to be able to share experiences because it literally could save, could help trajectory, it could save years. When I mentioned earlier, I was doing, software music and video, and I was getting calls about, this was like my fourth child, this business. And, you know, about acquisition. And I just, I wasn't in that place, and
Yeah.
there's it's an incredible wealth of what we learn. And like you said, those moments. But, we're so symbiotic and looking in the mirror every day and really, it's feeling good about what we're doing. And I wasn't looking to monetize off moms. That was like,
Mhm.
and there were so many moms in our community who were concerned. They were like, "We'll do a membership. We'll do this. We want this to keep going," because they could tell I wasn't, you know, selling my whatever. I
Right.
was talking. And half the time, if they're asking about something, I'm like, "Oh, I'll text it to you later. I'll send you versus
Yep.
using that platform for that. But to get on the other side of it and keep doing what you're doing, and then to be able to launch this, and we're going to be, I am cannot wait until we can make some announcements. And I'm I'm excited and hopeful that mid to late January we will.
Yeah.
But it's been a long time on this journey, and doing it the right way, and doing it very completely with love and patience.
Doing something new and also doing it the right way and sticking to the principles is hard. You can see how so many people, it's easy to, one of my first jobs, I worked at Chick-fil-A, and I sort of, in a very quick amount of time, I got to the place where the store owner had left, and I was the only one who sort of knew how to do everything. So I was sort of like opening and closing and hiring and firing and doing all these things at a younger age. One of the things I always thought about and admired, I got to meet Truett Kathy once, and remarkable that actually when I went to college, we were supposed to do an interview with somebody that we admired, and a lot of people in the class interviewed like the school nurse and the assistant coach at University of Alabama. I just basically called Truett Kathy's assistant like every day for a long time until Martha called me back one day and said, "Truett's in his office. Do you want to talk to him?" And I was like, "Yes, please." And so I talked to him maybe 20 minutes. Great. It was a great conversation. And I had always admired the fact that, like, whether it was a principled thing that he wouldn't open on Sundays. That was his thing, and there were so many people that told him for so long, "You are losing so much money because of this." But he's like, That's not. I'm not looking to make X sort of more profit than we already are." Um, but funny enough, I ran into him probably 6 years later in the headquarters having a lunch with a friend, and everyone was sort of like, "There's and I walked up and I said, "Oh, it's Drew. It's nice to see you. It's Kyle Hudson." He goes, uh, Tucker, Georgia. You worked at the Tucker, Georgia store." And I'm
Oh
like,
my god, I love it.
wait, what?" Like, um, but those principles, and it's tough. I've thought about that with Stackless as well. I don't want to do ads. I don't want Louis Vuitton to show up on the homepage because they paid a lot of money, because that is not curation to me. I think what's one of the things that we share is that joy of sort of sharing moments. And I always think back to like these moments at like a party or having wine with someone, and you're like, "Oh, I gotta tell you, I went on the best trip." And for just a minute, like you're this little nano influencer and you're like sharing a story, and the dopamine's rushing and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm getting to share this thing with you." And I think all we're really trying to do is just facilitate being able to actually sort of pass those things in that moment of when you're like, I have a cell phone case that I love, or I have a trip that I went on. I went to this restaurant. It was so good. And we had this and we had that. And someone says, "Oh, can you share that with me?" And you're like, yeah, give me a minute. When I get home, I think I'll try But that joy in just sharing that is is what I want to facilitate. But it is hard, obviously, in an era when you've got people like, I think Pinterest serves 38% ads, and that's how they try and make money. And but it's hard sticking to those principles. But I'm glad your group and your moms were behind you enough to be like, no, we're in. Let's let's support you and be with you.
Thank you. And it's interesting because like you said too, the using of the tools, which are the only way, and when people are starting out now, I don't even know, how someone can organically grow. When I was doing it and people said it's impossible. You cannot
Right.
get through those and I didn't have a penny to put into it. You know what I mean? It was like, everything I had went in it. I wasn't doing things, I turned down, especially because I wouldn't get behind things. I,
Hmm.
and I did a handful of times the things I love, like my niece wrote copy for like a glass company, their glasses. And I loved the mission. It was all about empowering women and the company came to for me to do something and it was more about I think I like shared the version my niece did, got their blessing, you know, and I was and I remember a lot of times there were mandates and I said, "I can find you another mom page." Like be 5
Yeah.
but it was just, and even cleaning stuff. I love where it's clean, green, sustainable. I've been like that for as long as I can remember. And I said, I'll only do it if I can give you my authentic, my real, if I love it or don't. I met
Right.
FabFitFun. FabFitFun? Yeah. And I said, I'll do it but I'm not going to open the box. Like, I'm not going to open the UPS box or the FedEx box until I'm live. And they were like, ha ha ha. You mean you're going to put everything? I said, no, I'm not going to look at anything. They were like, well, no one does that. I'm like, you know, so, but it's just if you can, you got to be smart about it, but you got to be so true about it. And I
Right.
was, true is my North Star,
Yeah.
smart, but true was first, second, and third. And so now it's blending in and making sure it's the right people. That's a whole different subject. When you get to where you expand your team and you have to bring people in. And when you're looking from the lens that if you say something is robin's egg blue, you could take to the bank it's robin's egg blue. You find later a lot of times there's people pitching. That's all they do is pitch, but they don't
Hmm.
actually, so
Yeah.
because you look
Where did that come in terms of the team when it was just you and it's Facebook and it was growing and you were doing it organically? When did it sort of
this
expand out and you was there a moment when you were like, "Oh, this is either getting bigger than I thought or it has evolved into something that is bigger?" Have there been a couple of moments there where you sort of realized that you were on a higher floor than you thought you were?
yes, however, I was still really doing everything myself, and then my husband, we also have Joy of Dad. It's pretty small. It was like his farm league to learn what I was doing because, I didn't have anybody else helping me in it. And so and it's I forgot, I think it's around 400,000 maybe, and it
Mhm.
does and at some point, I'd love to because 'cause I've had some really fun and interesting people, some like, one's a big musician who said, I'm like, "If I as soon as there's a dad who wants to, we can figure out and, like, let them run with it and we'll
Right.
support, in any way we can because there's dads that come to Joy of Mom too, not a lot, but
Mhm.
I was just looking at numbers, 13%, 15%, 8%, depending that have the same issues, concerns, you know what I mean? And especially in today's world. Um, but it's interesting. Years ago, after the Boston Marathon bombing, I was in Boston I wanted to do a video, too long of a story, but my daughter went to school there. So
Mhm.
it fit the pieces in and was supposed to be where it went off when, and was a blessing that
Oh, wow.
things changed. And so when I went and I said that was the first day I'm like, I can't be on my phone doing it because I'm gonna be at the thing. And he had practiced, and then he was able to take over and post
Nice.
and
That's great.
it was a big, and it was on the year after anniversary of it. Um, and then so it's interesting because now we're gonna, I'd love to have there's some of our moms ready to like run our private group, which would be great. But it's time for us. We're gonna start, utilizing the tools I haven't yet. Every time I get in a live, it's like, do you want to do this? I'm like, and I've learned everything. I'm pretty technology savvy, but I was like, I just my, a big part. I just felt like a info overload. You know, Finally, never worry, mine'll start barking. Is that yours or mine? I think it's yours.
Wait, that is Belly. Wait, let me see.
Hi, sweetie. She's such a good girl.
Hi. Come say hi. Look. Ooh, Aggie. Say
Oh,
hi.
hi, Melly.
You lay down. Do quiet. Okay? No, there's nobody outside. You're fine.
The little things, it's the best. Oh,
I know.
here's something. I don't even remember what I was saying. It's all good.
But the evolution, I love how it was family oriented, and now you're starting to get into the people in the group starting to
And my
run it.
son, he's still like my son's an unbelievable designer. He learned how to do this. He programs, codes, runs our number. It's just my daughter's help. We put together this Word of Mom thing a couple years ago and brought together like cumulative 36 million point four people in like 5 days, 100% organic. It was just
Oh wow,
so
that's
I just
amazing.
thanks. I want to be able, to take it to the next level, to go into the micro groups. We'll be launching our platform and be able to serve in much deeper, richer ways. I would get, like tickets for Beauty and the Beast from Disney. And I was scared to death to give them away because if I wasn't doing things the right way with the right rules, which change, I could get
Right.
slapped or in jail. And I just, you know, it was, I couldn't do it. I want,
Yeah.
to be safe and we follow every rule, but sometimes you don't know the rules. You just be
Yeah, no, totally. And it's definitely different when you're smaller and you run a small sort of campaign or a giveaway or whatever it is, but with
you're
lots and lots of
Mhm.
people and
It's
different states and different countries, all over the place. It's definitely different. So,
yeah,
um
and people say
what is that like?
that, and I
What do you see from a platform perspective? Like, and not to give away because I know you're going to make some announcements next year, but what do you see just as sort of the big broad themes that you're focused on for next
oh,
year?
yeah. In a nutshell, the most imperative things that moms need help with, the co-piloting with, the in a trusted environment that's safe and that's nourishing versus a lot of the other stuff that's going on.
Right. Yeah.
And just ways we could really help. And both of us are so also so symbiotic with curating. It's really
Mhm.
curating, the best experiences. I love sharing what other people are doing
Mhm.
and being able to let our moms know about just the nuggets and whether it's other people's apps, and I've done it all without doing any affiliate fees. Right? It's just like,
Yeah.
but it's everything we've been doing, but we're now able to go deeper and to be able to really do the full resources about the subjects and topics that are really most critical and important to moms. It's not like stages and ages, but really connecting with them, each other, resources, curation, products, micro
Yeah.
groups.
Well, and as things evolve too, I can think of some of the important things that we're thinking about too. When you think about um, device usage and the right apps and games to sort of, I can't stand Roblox. I like that's the one like my son and I will play Minecraft together, but Roblox feels like uh, I don't know. There are just some certain things that and how you stay connected with somebody who, my son's 8, and so at some point he's already as a what at what age do you get a phone? You know what I mean? And then you're like, "Oh my gosh, okay." I'm like figuring out ways to sort of, protect that and we're sort of going through and figuring out his ADHD, and he and I are very similar in the neurodivergency of how we learn. I would like to take something apart. I cannot sit and listen to you tell me how to take it apart for a long time. Like, and so how we support him in those and all the different ways as schools potentially change and how we learn is going to change, that being able to I imagine having those resources and having that community to sort of flow together during those changes is super important.
They help. And what's so interesting, which one of the many things I love about Joy of Mom, it's like we don't really have attrition. It's like moms are coming in and then moms who've been moms for a long time through moms from empty nesters. I mean, it's surprising. I think our sweet spot, it's always been like 25, 34, 25, 44, but it's just like young moms, new moms want to hear what experienced moms. And then hearing also, you know, which I know is so trite, but it's true. We blink. I always had the youngest kids because I had miscarriages and then I couldn't get pregnant. So I was, you know what I mean, where my friends' kids were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old or 10 years old, that type of thing.
Right.
And, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, well, it's right there. And, whether the kids are going to kindergarten or going to college, these different, and to be able to, it's like you're finding your tribe. We're coming together based on shared needs, interests, and they're universal, but they're very intimate and personal.
Yeah.
And then to be able to do that with other, you know, people on the same path and journey. Like when you and I heard what you're doing, I'm like, this is awesome. And it's things that we've shared lists and curated, but I'm like said to my colleagues, this is what you're doing. Let's empower you. Let's share with each other because it just allows us to there's something about curating people who are doing it also for companies for the right reasons. That are genuinely, you feel they're doing it from thoughtfulness and intention and all that good stuff. And that's like the sea I want to live in and swim in and share.
Yeah. Same. And I think about that when I think about the culture, the people that we partner with, and also the culture of the company, and just having people that you enjoy going to work with or being around, and you've got the same sort of energy, and it's not sort of this like, all right, I'm getting ready to go into work, like to, but I gotta I gotta fight the process versus just feeling like a kid in the sandbox and everyone's having fun, like doing and creating and making. And
Mm.
um well, I think about like when you're not, what are your interests and what are you usually doing if you're not working and working on Joy of Mom?
That's a great question. And that's something that I look forward to sharing because I'll have more people helping and with us because I'm always previous life, fresh out of college, when I was assistant or when I was an account manager, I'm like, "Oh, you don't have to be like, I'd have an assistant, but I would do all the work. I never liked asking people.
Right.
So I love hanging with my dogs, walking with them. My daughters who lives in New York is in town now, which is wonderful. And just kind of exploring. It's the little things, but I do
Mhm.
spend a tremendous amount of time
Yeah.
on Jam, and, again, my family's on this journey with me and helps, and this is what we do. But I'm looking forward to exploring all these other things. I brought up on a live stream this morning because somebody talked about getting a pedicure and immediately I'm like, I haven't had a manicure. And I don't even know when. It was about pampering. I don't, and I said there was a point. I remember our friends were like, it had been 23 years since I went on a vacation. I mean, I had business trips, which are not vacations. And even my vacation after that 23 years was I was working most of the time. That, you know, so I want to fix it, but it's like by need, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. It's not like I remember hearing podcasts of some people like we're building businesses and it's no shade, no anything, but their husband had another job and pulling in a tremendous I was like, "That's so
Right.
I can't" you know what I mean? Like, you're lucky, but that's not my situation. You know what I mean? It's like we're all on this mission together and, and it's taken, I there could have been many times I just wouldn't sell out and I wouldn't sell away and I wouldn't do things that I just didn't feel were the right things to do. So, that's part of that. It's not crazy, but it was
Mm,
just the only way I could do it, and
totally.
getting very close to I'll be able to answer you, and there'll probably be more walks and more talks and more coffee dates, but still haven't been on a, real vacay.
Yeah.
That's when you said, I was like, "Oh, that's so nice." You know what I mean? Like, when you somebody stretch on. But how do you? I'd love to hear that. Are you
It's funny. I have things that I've been into, whether it be like indoor rock climbing, and my son and I will go indoor rock climbing, or photography's always been my sort of, or videography. I kind of always fall back into that. I love being in that when I see something and you start shooting something through a camera, or I guess now through a phone, but your lens changes for the world, and you see things differently, and you sort of start, people can tell when I get in that mode. I start like, I'm sort of stalking around the outside trying to like line things up right, but I just love that mode of seeing things differently. But in this space, from April when we started Stackless until now, once I get in this mode, just like you said, it's your fourth baby. This is my third baby. Well, no, I guess with Millie, this is my fourth too. But it's like it's not all consuming. It just I had like there's something that has to come out, and there is like this has to be sort of delivered into the world. And so it's one of those things that it's so different than working from a 9 to 5. I've had 9 to 5s where I enjoy the team, and I might like what I'm working on, but like I don't think about it all the time. And this is one of those where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get up tomorrow morning and start working on that thing, or start building that thing, or start putting, and you're just in a totally different mode. And so I don't even, you don't even, I don't know, think about it as work. Really, it's just, yeah, it's just something that you're continually improving upon, and I don't really have a lot of expectations, funny enough, like day to day. I'm curious to see where it all goes kind of day to day, and I feel like I'm on this journey. I'm riding in this raft down the river, and I'm just having a fun time on this like raft ride. And that's fun. So this is primarily it these days. If not, if I need a brain break where I've had like a good solid 12, 14 hour day, then I will play Xbox a little bit, which is a very good take my brain elsewhere for a little while kind of thing, or movies.
I love that. And by the way, I don't know. I mean, this is like a 2-minute break. I love doing Wordle. I do every day with my daughter, and then a cousin who I've never met. The last same name is, in LA. It's so cute. He's in the finance world, and we've done a couple Zooms together. It's like a third cousin of mine, but it's the cutest thing. We're religious about our Wordle. Um,
That's so great. I love those things. I love when you've got those, when you're in a good flow for something like that. It was for me, it was Words with Friends during the era when sort of Words with Friends was like, and I had a couple of people that I played with, and it was fun to pick up your phone and see that someone else had laid down a tile piece or whatever, and I love that.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
you just get in the mode, you get in the zone. I'll show you this. It was yesterday, so by the time you have this, but
right.
like, whoops, you know what I mean? It's like
Oh yeah.
when you see that, and it's like, wait a minute, 4 letter, I just like knew the word. I'm like, okay, I'm tuned in today. Worry when you're not, but it's just funny. You're just being present too. And also getting that busy brain in the morning when there's a lot to do, and organizing it, and just being man, finding things that just feed your soul.
Yeah. Yep. And listening, I found, has been the thing too, is not pushing too hard in any one direction, but just being open to sitting with things for a little bit, and then coming back to them, and sitting with them for a bit, and just sort of, I feel like that keeps me more open to wherever this thing is headed. So, um,
And
well,
yeah, I'm completely with you, and I love that. That's where when it gets, and being focusing on gratitude. That's been my bridge.
yeah,
Things are really not, like the ground's ripped out from underneath you, not to sound dramatic, but when it's really
yeah,
challenging, and just really focusing, that's like the thing that kind of brings me back in. But completely being open, because there's something much bigger going on that's guiding us. And
yeah,
it's a gift what we're doing. It's an amazing privilege, and it's an awesome responsibility too. So to be able to see it through, and get all the pieces that are just coming together, but giving everything the room to breathe, to make sure it's right, and the right people for showing up and showing who they are, and all that as well, is great.
yeah.
So
I love it.
Thank you. I'm so
Well, thank you so much and I'm thankful for you, and I'm so glad the universe like had us collide and and that we got to do this time. And I love hearing the early stories, and then I feel like I'm caught up now as I watch the Joy of Mom evolution, that I know where everything sort of started and came
this is
from,
like
and
stealth mode for us. You know what I mean? And I just have to. You know what I mean. We're so close to being able to. I just can't stop and start again. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's like we're so close, and our moms are community's so amazing and just kind, and it's just that vibe. And anybody new that comes in, everyone just kind of welcomes them. Not kind of, they do, but to be able to have a fuller, deeper, just like what you're doing. And we're so aligned with what we do that, again, Corey's just like a tuned in angel,
yes,
knowing who to bring together on the journeys. And I'm excited to be sharing you guys, to be collaborating together, creating great lists and favorite place, because I'm one of those that I have mine in a few different things, and I always have my trusty in my notes, but I'm looking at 5
right.
places. So I was like, so get it, so needed. And thanks for, being a brave and bold entrepreneur on this journey.
Well, you too, and I can't wait to maybe we should do this again, like Q2, Q3 of next year, and let's see where we're both at.
Would
That'll be an interesting retrospective.
be very, very awesome. I look forward to that. Not want to rush time because we blink and it's like, oh my God, my birthday.
I know, I know,
But
I
yeah,
know. That's how it goes.
so
Thank you for being here.
thank you so much.